as you just seen, this is the introduction video to the Ipod Touch, and that is pretty much what I'm going to talk about today. First, I would like to tell you that my presentation is divided into 3 parts. I will talk about the history, about the introduction of the iPod, and applications. First, I'll talk about history, and my presentation is. Well, I don't have any handouts, and you can ask your questions at the end. The history of Apple. Apple was founded in 1976 by 3 men, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and John Sculley. At the time, Steve Jobs was 21 years old, and they started the company from his basement, I believe. And this was just after Microsoft was founded. John Sculley was actually someone who came later. He was the director of Pepsi Cola, but after 18 months of Steve Jobs just poking and prodding him to join, he joined eventually. And well, Microsoft was relatively new at that time, and Steve Jobs took the same system, but what he did was different. He took, Microsoft had icons with words, and Steve Jobs did not like it that much. So what he did was he turned the icons into pictures, and later on, even Microsoft adapted this. And in 1983, John Sculley and Steve Jobs got into a big fight because there was something about the stockholders, and eventually the company took another direction because John Sculley stayed and Steve Jobs left, and he worked at 2 to 3 different companies. He even worked at Pixar, I believe. And in 1999 he came back. And well, first I would like to show you what the first product of Apple was. This was the first Apple product. I know, it's not that pretty, is it? This is the Apple I. After this, the Apple II came, the Apple III, and things got more developed. And eventually we ended up with this. Well, this is a MacBook Air. And it has a whole lot of other functions. You can see here on the top, below row, that all the programs are just pictures, not words. So that means that even everybody around the world can use it. So Japanese people, Chinese people, Dutch people, for that matter. And it will be the same for everybody. Well, now I would like to move on to the iPod section, because Apple does not just make computers. They expanded their product line. And well, I will tell you about the iPod Classic, iPod Nano, iPod Shuffle, and eventually the iPod Touch. I will first show you an iPod Classic. Well, this is the iPod Classic. And it's pretty big, right? And it's not that pretty. But it does have a lot of other functions. The iPod Classic was the first one to have video, photos, and music in one. That means that you can put pretty much everything on it and it will play it. The battery time was also longer than most MP3 players. It was introduced in 2001, 2 years after Steve Jobs' return. Well, the iPod quickly became the most popular MP3 player ever because everybody wanted one. So the one I have here is the 5th generation. That's the last one that came out in 2007, I believe. After this, they made the iPod Nano. Well, that is the 2nd generation, I believe, and this one eventually came with it. Well, that one does not have a camera, and this one does. So they even upgraded their Nanos. After this, the iPod Shuffle came in 2006. Well, as you can see, it does not have anything. It just has a few buttons and play and a rewind button. And it does not have any screens, cameras, or anything else. Even the memory space was limited because the iPod Classic has a lot more memory than, well, the iPod Shuffle for that matter. And eventually in 2008 they introduced the iPod Touch. iPod Touch is, as Steve Jobs said, the iPhone without the phone. And this is what I will be talking about, well, pretty much all the time. Except these. The similarities with the iPhone. Similarities with the iPhone are that they both have a Retina display, but, well, that's pretty much most of the similarities. They both have internet. They both have access to the App Store, and, well, one of them can operate with the phone network and the other one doesn't. But the Ipod Touch also has FaceTime, Skype, and other applications that most people have. I will talk about the strengths and the weaknesses right now. Well, the strengths of Apple are that they have Steve Jobs, which means that he established himself as the spokesperson of Apple. So if things are going well with him, the company will thrive. But if he, for example, ends up in the hospital, the stock market value will drop and, well, things will not go that well. The number one portable player. This one actually beat Nintendo and Sony at the same time when it comes down to portable gaming. The App Store has recorded its 1.5 billion download a few days ago, which means that both of those companies are beaten. The weaknesses of this device are that the glass screen is prone to cracking and, well, damage. It could feel like a cheap knockoff of the iPhone because they have a lot of similarities, but some of the functions are limited. The battery life is also a big minus because I tried it. If you just play music, it can last for 24 hours. If you use the internet on it constantly, it will only last 3. But eventually, if you try and multitask with it, check your email and listen to music with it, it will only last for 9 hours, which means you will have to charge it every day. Here I have 2 examples of the most popular games of the App Store right now. They both are used on the iPhone. I have a question for you guys. Which one of you does not know these games? Nobody knows them?
I know them.
And you do. Okay. Well, for people who don't know, the second game is lesser well known. It's released by, similarities with the movie that is right now in cinemas, which is called Hop. And I picked these 2 because they both have different functions. With Hop, you use the iTouch, sorry, the center point of it. So if you move it left, the body will go right, and the left, if you go right, it will move right. And, well, with Angry Birds, the operation system is completely different because you have to use your finger to launch the birds at the base. Well, these are examples of other applications. Does anybody know any of these?
Yes.
Okay. Well, just a short explanation. Twitter is just for people who are too lazy to go on the internet and log in on Twitter. So you just have to click on it and it will open Twitter automatically. Slice It is also a finger-operated game, which means you get certain objects and you have a minimum amount of pencil strokes you can use to cut the object in pieces of the same size. SoundHound you can use, for example, when you're in a club and you don't know the song, it will record it and it will find the song for you on the internet. Japanese word of the day, that one speaks for itself, I guess. It shows you the word, the way it's written in Japanese and how it's pronounced. And my Make It Count, I use it a lot, especially when my study support arrives, and then I can find out how much I spend, what I spend it on, and over a certain amount of time. And to summarize, I have spoken about the history of Apple, the other Apple products, the Ipod Touch, pros and cons, applications, and I would like to thank you for your attention.